Hey, everybody. Just thank you so much for tuning in tonight for our women's panel. We've super excited. I'm Brady Irwin with Science of Speed. I'm super excited to have all of you join us and just learn a little bit about the panelists that we have on tonight. First up, I'm going to introduce Angie Milford, who is bottom middle of your screen. Angie Milford is coach here in Tallahassee. She works with both the cross country team as well as the track and field team at one of our schools here in Maclay. And does a phenomenal job with those. Angie is also a very accomplished athlete with several 70.3s under her belt, as well as, Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, but an Ironman or two in there as well?
Only one.
One and done, huh?
Yes.
And then also we've got Kristin Halley tonight, who is one of our Science of Speed coaches. Kristin is a triathlete and current ultra runner right now. And just recently finishing, was it a 50K or a 50 miler?
A 70 miler.
I played that a lot, so I'm sorry on that one. And then here in a moment, we're going to have Shannon Coates join in with us. And Shannon has a long background. She was a Division I runner here at Florida State for both cross country as well as on the track. And then she is also an Ironman athlete. Shannon currently runs in the Northwest, so she'll be popping on here in just a few moments though to join us. So, we are going to really celebrate the women's history side of things, and that was a lot of the reason for doing our women's panel tonight. With March being Women's History Month, we wanted to just kind of go over some of the things that have changed for women in sport. A little bit of the past, but more looking forward to the future and what it holds for our athletes, and how each of these women have been impacted. But also we wanted to kind of answer some questions that you guys might have. So whether you're on Facebook following us there or you're on our live YouTube feed, please go ahead and ask your questions in the comments portions there, and we'll pick those up as we get a little closer to the end of our segment today. So just wanted to start off though and really, kind of ask you ladies how did you get into sport? What was it that got you going, whether it was power sport, basketball, softball, anything of that sort? And then eventually, how did you transition into endurance sports? So Angie, would you start off for us?
Grew up playing mostly team sports when I was younger. Had an older brother, and but I was more athletic than him. But yeah, just playing team sports forever, and grew to love basketball in middle school. And I did cross country, I did volleyball, I did everything, growing up back then. And but play, basketball forever. But I can remember when I was little watching Ironman on TV with my mom, and watching the Tour de France and stuff like that, and just grew to love the endurance, just the watching that, and always loved it. I coached after playing basketball in college, coached in college a few years, coached in high school a few more, but then started going into, once I wanted to be a mom, started doing triathlons and started doing more the longer distance and stuff. And that's how I transitioned into that, because it's something I always wanted to do, but never could because of playing and coaching basketball.
Okay, perfect. And we do have Shannon here hopping in, so I would like to welcome Shannon to the group. Shannon, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hi.
Which for you, it's more afternoon than I guess evening, right?
Yep, I'm Portland, Oregon.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, thank you for taking a little bit of time away from your day and your work schedule to hop in here and join us. So right now we're just going over basically how you got into sport, and especially for you, you've got a not only a long background in Ironman sport but more so also D1 running. How did you get into endurance sports specifically?
Oh gosh. So my whole family has been runners. My mom and dad used to run marathons, and I have an older brother and sister that both ran cross country and track. So if I picked a different sport, I would just be the odd duck, So I just followed in their footsteps and just kept going. I don't think I ever really found that I had a passion for running until I started running for Florida State, because, it becomes a job when you run for your school at a collegiate level. And I just realized how much it meant to me. And It was actually a college course called triathlon training that I had enrolled in. It was just like for fun, and the final exam was to do a sprint triathlon, and I think this was my sophomore year. And we had also volunteered at Ironman Florida, which is in Panama City. And I remember a moment in my mind that sticks out is when the sun was just rising and the gun went off and the pros were charging into the water. And actually my favorite song to this day is the Foo Fighters' Hero. They had that song playing and it's just such a vivid memory in my mind. And I'm like, I have to do this. It's so amazing. And the day unfolded and I'm volunteering and I just see these incredible performances. But obviously I had to wait until I was done with my eligibility. So as soon as I was done, as soon as I graduated Florida State, I signed up for Ironman Florida and I raced it and ended up winning my age group and qualified for Kona. And then it was just like history was just the fire ignited because Kona went really well in 2010. I actually ended up on the podium. I got 4th place in my age group in the 2024. So it was just, a whirlwind from there. And then it really got me.
Not a bad start, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Kristin, what about you? How did you get into endurance sport in particular? I mean, anybody in your life that influenced you and really impacted that for you?
Not really. Much like Angie, from a young age, I've always been involved in team sports. I was a swimmer. I played lacrosse in high school. College, I was on the crew team. As more after college life I've always done something, but it's always been part of school. Like, what do I do now? And I picked up running, but it was just for fitness. And I found it kind of boring to not run for a goal because I was always competing previously. And honestly, for me, it was I randomly got in the mail one day a flyer for an organization called Team in Training that you fundraise. They provide coaching for endurance sports. And I signed up for my first marathon with them. And I really think it was the social aspect of the running group that got me hooked. But I was hooked from then on and went on to do my first marathon, my first triathlon. And it's just built up from there. I think so many of us that do endurance sports have a little bit of an addictive personality. And so it's like, what's next? What's bigger? What else can I accomplish? And I've just kept going for more and more since then.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. Well, so looking at your training history for all of you, if you think back, whether it's 6 months, 6 years, 15 years, certainly when we factor in training in general, whether it's male or female, the general building blocks or the pieces of that training puzzle are all very similar. It's just, it might be a little different approach to get from point A to point B. So whether it's for your guys' individual talents or skill sets, where or what do you see in particular from a female standpoint? Where is that either been a challenge, or where do you feel that you've benefited as a female in the training standpoint to to excel or to be that great athlete that each of you are? Kristin, do you have any insight from your perspective there?
That's a tough one for me. I've thought about this a lot. Maybe a little bit of an odd statement to make, but I think for some of us, for me, it's more of I want to prove as a woman that I can also do it. And so it's just another driving force for me. And I think there's a lot of women who have that attitude. I don't want to say we've necessarily been put down, but sort of, people might expect, especially in athletics, a little bit less. Men are the strong ones, men are the fast ones. And so it's just a driving force to, I can do it too. And just, like I said, keep going for that next thing then with that behind me.
Okay, got it. Angie, I see you nodding your head there. What are your thoughts?
Think of that. You talk about like the challenges as a female compared to a male, what we face. And I was thinking of that. That was a hard one for me too, but I think it was almost like a double-edged sword, because I think in a study showed women can multitask better. And that's great because we do all this, but then it's not good because we do so much and we're trying to, have a a life, be in a family, have a job, train. You know, I think it helps us because we can do it, but it's also, like I said, it's definitely a challenge for that because we try to do everything. You know, I think as just women have in, you know, the past that just, you know, I hear stuff that, you know, I don't mean to say it's in a bad way, but it is a bad way. We've always been told, you know, you do this, you know, we're stereotyped. We have to do everything. You know, it is a challenge to train it like the way we want to. And I see that I'm older than the other two ladies that at a point in my life now that I'm not able to do what I want because I've got to choose. Right now I'm being a mom, a coach, so I'm not doing the things that I want to. So, you know, that there's the challenges that I see as a woman, where I wish you know, I'd love to go back into training hard and all that stuff. It's just my time is not right now. Yeah.
So you did mention though earlier that you made the choice to start training for triathlon when you had children. That especially 70.3 and Ironman distance, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense there because kids require a lot of time. So how was that balance worked out for you, or how did you make that work?
You know, they were little. They did what they were told. Now they're teenagers.
Good point.
But no, it's just, you know, and it's point now that they're little, and that's why I chose to do 70.3s because my one Ironman I did was on my oldest son Clay's 10th birthday. So all the training leading up to it was rough for me. So but I like the 70.3s because I could be a mom and do all that stuff. But now, you know, with the boys, you know, my oldest son's at West Point and my one's a senior, definitely having senioritis, and I have a 16-year-old. So it's at this point that I want to spend all the time I can with him right now because I can always do this later. So that's my choice right now. Yeah.
Got it.
It's tough because I'm so competitive. I hate it. I see mountain bikers go by or I see people doing this and I see Strava. It drives me up the wall because I want to compete. You know how I am. And I'm choosing otherwise right now, which I know I won't regret. Yeah.
Okay. Shannon, what about you? What's your approach or your thought process on this as well?
I completely agree with what she just said with the wanting to do everything. And as a female, I think there's this expectation that, you know, the women support, you know, their husbands. There is a pay gap. So men typically make more. So they're working harder while the women, like, you know, they do the house chores and the dinner and stuff. I'm lucky my husband cooks and loves it. But but no, I think it's an expectation to just kind of do everything. And I kind of find myself thinking, feeling really overwhelmed sometimes when my day is packed because I do work full time and I train, you know, in the hours that I don't have kids. But I think that as a challenge for women is they also feel that ticking time clock of like their biological clock, you know, is it going to get harder if I wait to have kids? And if they do, and when they do, there's the juggle with that. So it's just the constant juggle and finding time. We're just time crunched.
Right. So, you know, with that being said, and with the approach that a lot of fitness roles take in life, it seems that a lot of the fitness that's promoted towards women in particular is more for a tool of weight loss or aesthetics. And I know personally that, you know, working with athletes, it's a struggle even on the endurance side. Do any of you feel that the endurance side has either helped you or made it more difficult from a goal standpoint or a body image standpoint to live up to certain standards or to meet expectations? Or do you feel that the endurance community is a healthier community for that body image aspect than what industry and marketing is doing? And Angie, I'm gonna direct this to you first, and I'm directing it to you for two reasons. One, because you've been in sport for a long time, but also because you work with a lot of these younger middle schooler and high school kids. So, you know, not only from an athlete personally, but also from seeing what you're seeing with the younger girls out there, is endurance sport a healthier approach, and do you feel it helps them?
Depends who coaches them and who feeds them stuff. So, and that's Shannon, you may go on this. I know when I played college basketball, Shannon, but we had to weigh in and out every day for practice. And I know for runners, the stereotypical, was, which that was horrible for us. Everybody at Auburn did it. The gymnasts, everybody did it. I think it was horrible for them. I don't know why they did that. But I know the stereotype for runners is to be lean. Yeah. And I am trying, and I coach pole vault also, and you have to have the weight for the right pole, which is so wrong in high school and lower. And I am trying to teach our kids, you want to be strong, not lean. So that's something that trying to work with kids, because we've been around enough that when you see a girl, you can tell if she has an eating problem, if there's something going on. You just look at them and know. So I see that battle and I think it's just, honestly, from what I hear with the girls that I'm around, it's just a battle in general for teenage girls. So whether they're an athlete or not. So it's hard. So, going off topic here, I apologize, but yeah, it's just, for young runners and just trying to make sure that they are being healthy. So they're, like I said, I want them to, I always tell them, I want you to run strong. So, but anyway, that doesn't quite answer. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how I view it with the young kids. So, yeah.
All right. Shannon, what about you? What has been your experience with that, whether it's personally or seeing with fellow athletes? How do you feel that the endurance side, is it healthier, or is it about the same as the rest of the general population?
Yeah, so women's running for sure. I had a lot of teammates in college that struggled with eating disorders. They were fast. They were fast, but you could really tell because their performances were very inconsistent. So they'd have phenomenal races, but then they'd have just bomb, and that's a huge tell. But there is truth to it. If you're lighter, you're faster because you have less weight to carry over a distance. So it's genetics. It's there's a lot of things that factor into what is that perfect combination of a very, very fast runner. And some people try to force themselves into it. And for me, I never really I've always been tiny, but I didn't deal with that personally, and so I don't understand that mentality. But moving into triathlon, I think that it's a healthier perspective. I'm not sure if that's the right word to use, but just because you're a swimmer and you're a cyclist, which you have to be very powerful as a cyclist, but you look at this typical swimmer body type, which as female, they might be a little bit on the heavier side, not like a little tiny little runner. So it's like this morphed body type. And I always tell myself, man, if I had to gain 20 pounds of weight of fat, and that was going to get me faster, bring it on. Bring on the cheeseburgers. I don't care, because my goal is just to be faster. And if that's what it takes, so be it. I don't care what I look like. I just want to be fast. Right. So, but that's just me. And I know that some people don't fit. Some people look at the beautiful image in a magazine and see this lean body type. It's marketing. It's marketing. It sells. You have to understand that and be objective about it. But it's not everyone thinks that way. And I'm only saying this because I've learned over the years, and it's just something that comes with age, I guess, wisdom. And I wish more girls understood that, because not everyone looks that way. I mean, I kind of want to use an example of years ago, this phenomenal Jody Swallow. She is so fast, and she's got the swimmer body type where you'd see she's got a little bit more mass on her. So fast. Put her on the cover of a magazine and show that off. I mean, I think there needs to be more diversity in the marketing, but at the end of the day, it's whatever sells. It's something that looks good, it's going to sell. It just is the way it is. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
And looking at it from a coach's perspective, I view it more as, okay, a little bit more muscle mass, especially from the running standpoint, is a little bit of it gives you a little bit of bulletproof aspect as well. If you can be a little stronger, yes, it's more weight, but it's functional weight at the same point in time. So, and I think the triathlon side of things provides a little bit more of that as well, because you're having to do upper body work. So, you don't have the true marathon runner physique that you just see if you're looking at, Chicago or Boston Marathon for the elite runners. And I think that makes a difference. Kristin, in your experience from a coach and from an athlete standpoint, how do you feel it's impacted you or impacted your athletes?
Yeah, I mean, both of these ladies have said something that triggered to me. Angie used the term strong, and that's something I've been focusing a lot with people that I run with, people that I coach, and just my own self as well, trying to get away from that concept of body image with being thin to be a good runner. Like Shannon said, I mean, especially as a runner, yes, every few pounds you gain or lose a few pounds here and there, and it can definitely affect how you run. But then, as you even just said, there's something about muscle mass and being stronger. And so I've tried to change my own terminology and focus more on that concept of being strong and fit, athletic versus thin. And I think you start to hear more and more of that these days. But there still is definitely a marketing perspective of that, thin, lean body. But I think there's a lot about being strong as an athlete. I feel like the more I've gotten into the kind of ultra endurance world, and especially with trails, because there's so much climbing mountains that we do, there's a bigger emphasis on being strong. I mean, even myself, I've never been somebody to spend a lot of time in the gym doing strength training, and semi-rehabbing an injury right now, taking some time with lower mileage. But I've taken that perspective of, if I'm stronger, do more weight training, better overall health and strength to prevent some of these injuries in the future. So I've been working more on strength training myself, and thinking about it, when I think about different ultra runners that I know of, you see a lot more, especially like I said, when it comes to running up in the mountains, a lot more women that might be, I hate to use the term beefier because that sounds negative, but not as slim, as lean as the typical marathon runner that you see, but that's because they have to be stronger to climb the mountains. So for me, I feel like that's a more positive thing, because I see more of that body shape the more I get into the higher distance trail running than I see with just the local road running. But I think in general, the more we get away from the terms of thin and lean and more onto strong and healthy and fit, athletic, it helps. And that's what I try to do with my athletes, to kind of refocus what they think about body image while they do sports.
Perfect. Yeah, and it's not an easy topic for a lot of people to cover, because it's something that has kind of been pushed off to the wayside. And I think as the pool is growing more with female predominance, not only in the sport side of things, but in the promotional side of things, and also in the research side of things. Stacy Sims has been a huge proponent for female health over the last 10 or 12 years in sport. And I think that as you get more people that are more outspoken, it's becoming more socially acceptable, I guess, to actually talk about and actually focus on the health side of things versus just the aesthetics and solely the weight side of things. So yeah, hopefully there's a shift and a transition coming to a lot of that as we move along and move into the future. And with those changes, we're looking at just the female body in general goes through a lot of changes. So if you're looking at, anything from puberty to pregnancy to menopause, mentally, physically, hormonally, the female body changes and adapts so much more than the male body is required to. And I think that, working with athletes, you see it that, even monthly and from or throughout the month, even there are such drastic swings and changes that you're seeing differences now that more research is being done in a performance standpoint. When is your peak performance in your cycle, and how does it impact you? And, when do you feel the worst? Obviously, you all know when you feel the worst, but as a coach, they don't always know. So there's better tracking that's coming along with that. So as athletes, have you guys seen or found ways that have helped you to adapt to what has happened throughout life or what continues to happen throughout life for you that has helped you to become a better athlete, to train more consistently, or to, just be more competitive? Kristin, why don't you go ahead and start off with that?
I knew you were going to do that to me.
Yeah, throw you under the bus.
To me, this one's even harder for me personally. I don't know that I've really come up with an adoption yet. I don't have a good answer to this one. No, for me, training throughout the month, definitely, there's the menstrual cycle. I track that because I know how it affects me mentally and physically. So I track that just to know in my own training program how I might alter it slightly based on how I know I'm going to be feeling in upcoming days or weeks. But outside of that, based on your recommendation, I also have, Stacy Sims' book Roar, and thoroughly enjoy it, and I've read it, and taking a lot in, but I still feel like I myself am still learning a lot on that side of things. So I said, other than just for myself, just tracking myself and what's going on, I don't really have a good answer for that one.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody want to step up here on this one next? No, shaking heads. Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, I've been actually focusing more on weight training. Before, I would just try to fit it into my training program, like doing an Ironman. You've got 3 sports to train for. It's like weight training is a 4th leg. Where do you have time? But I'm noticing that maybe it's worth removing one of those bike rides or runs and putting in a powerful weight session, and just the strength gains alone, I think, are helping me improve over all areas. So lately I've been really delving into the weight training world and building up raw power. I'm seeing a lot of my local training partners get really strong on the bike, and I feel kind of left behind, like I can't keep up, and it's frustrating. Like when I see these giant FTPs and power numbers, I'm like, I have never seen that. So I'm just trying to adopt a beginner's mindset again. I've been doing Ironmans for 10 years now, and it's like, show me something new. Maybe, try a different training tool. I actually use the Vasa Swim Erg a lot, and it's really interesting because I'm measuring power on my swim stroke. That's something I've never watched before. So it's just kind of like trying something new and just being a beginner again, and it makes it fun and exciting.
Right. Okay, good. And you say it helps, so the strength training has helped you in all facets. And when you say that, are you talking from a performance standpoint, from a general feel in terms of your running and your cycling, or where do you really feel that, what part of sport is that helping you in?
Well, injuries alone and being more balanced, I've noticed that I've got like this little hip niggle on one side, and now that I've been incorporating like single leg exercises in the gym, it's kind of disappeared, and I was wondering I couldn't figure it out. So like from an injury standpoint and being a balanced athlete, that alone, and I'm just coming back from a kind of break in cycling, and it's been horrible, but the weight training actually has been really helping me kind of get off this plateau and get back to my old self again. So I'm seeing quicker gains in the power departments, I think, from just weight training.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Okay. Angie, what about yourself? Anything in particular?
I've been through like almost all of those you're asking about, but training. When I was pregnant, I did. Because the question, when I was pregnant, I did run and lift and loved it. So, and as my body, and I can tell as my body changed, and as I started doing Ironmans and learning, and same thing, I've going through the book Roar, just learning how my body changes. Lifting a lot more now, because when I did the triathlons and everything else, I quit lifting. I used to lift all the time, and then I started in the triathlons. I just didn't have time. I had to take one thing out, but I love the fact I've gotten back into working out a lot and paying attention. I'm so much stronger than I ever was before. I have not, but something's gone on, getting old sucks, that my joints have just gone downhill in the last probably 6 months, that running just flipping kills me. So that's something I'm trying to figure out, whether it's with the hormones or what's going on. So that's why, to answer this question, I'm like, no, but just because I'm trying to figure things out, which, it's just trying to, because I would love to get back running. That's why I've just been biking like crazy a lot. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, you say that with going through pregnancy, how was your training during that? Or how was your experience during that?
Because I've always loved working out, I could always tell when it was time to take a step back. I mean, I started to train, and when it's time to take a step back, you could tell. So I wouldn't lift as much weight. I had to go 10 pounds lighter or whatever it might be. Running, I'd run until until I jiggled too much, So, which I was like, oh. So, but I had 3 great pregnancies. So,
Right.
So that was great.
It always amazes me what women can do. And I'm, on our last panel discussion, we had Elise Gallegos on, and she was 8 months pregnant at the time. And Shannon, I believe she's a teammate of yours as well. But it's interesting because, talking with her, she actually just had her baby. So congratulations, Shannon, or not Shannon, sorry, Elise, if you're watching in right now. But just a couple nights ago. And from my understanding, she trained all the way through pregnancy and was even able to get into aero up until the last week of pregnancy even, which amazes me. I don't know how with a belly you can even get into the aero bars, but she accomplished it. So just that in itself is a very interesting approach. And, it's, from a heat aspect and everything else that plays into it, trying to keep core temperature low enough during that time period is another challenge that all plays into that, just from a health and a safety standpoint of both the mother and the baby. So, but let's go ahead and move on to, just the next question. And
can I add something just real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
as Angie was talking, I thought about this because she had mentioned hormone fluctuations. And it made me think hormones, but also nutrition for women. I had never thought of it. I know you get your blood work ran a lot, Brady. And I hadn't, afraid to admit this, but I hadn't seen a doctor in many years. And last year, finally went and got an annual physical after way too long, and I had a full blood work panel done. And my best friend that I run with, she knows, like, throughout the summer leading up to that, for a number of months, I had complained about just constantly feeling tired and exhausted, and I just felt like I didn't have it anymore and could not figure out what was wrong with me. And when they ran my blood work, I was extremely low on iron. Iron's a big deal for women, especially then women in endurance sports. And I found out that not only was I low on iron, but my body doesn't store iron. So I've had to, I take a supplement now, but I also have to concentrate more on how I eat to make sure I get a lot more iron-rich foods. And so it makes me that much more aware of my diet. I'm that much more adamant now about getting that annual physical and getting the blood work to monitor that. But I think that's another big deal for women to follow up on is how we feed our body and different times throughout our life cycle as we go through all of these changes is important. And if they're, women, whether you're getting your physicals or not, like I was, if you haven't had your blood work ran in a while, it's worthwhile to go and get that done. You might be surprised at something you find out that is affecting your performance that you never would have thought of. It was an eye opener for me. I ate a lot of red meat. I never would have thought that I was low on iron, but my body doesn't store it, and that's why. And so, finding that out, changing how I eat, taking a supplement has made huge differences for me in training. So I think that's another big aspect for women with endurance sports to just kind of take note of.
Yeah.
Brady, may I say something?
Certainly.
Yeah. So that's, I get told a lot. What would I tell my kids? I'm the same. I need to go get all that rechecked. It's been a few years, but I tell my girls to go get their blood work done, my runners, and I tell them specifically to ask to get the ferritin check. So that's something. And because and then I ask them to bring it to me so I can look at it, because there is a difference. Because I've had kids come back to me, say, oh, they said I was fine. I was at 12. 12 is fine for a normal person that doesn't do anything. So, so that's what, but yeah, for females in general. And then, like I said, especially for my young girls that are going through puberty and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think getting your blood work done, and specifically asking to have your iron, your ferritin checked is really important.
Yeah. And Kristin mentioned it earlier, but I'm OCD about that. So I'll get blood draws done personally quarterly, and I have for the last 15 years. So even as a male, it's been interesting to see how things have fluctuated. But iron is something that I've struggled with for years, especially when my training volumes, were 12 to 14,000 miles a year. I was seeing low ferritin numbers. And that's the one thing that pointed it out to me, constantly fatigued, and it wasn't just the training. So I do think that is something that is important to do, but at the same point in time, like Angie, you just mentioned, you need to know what numbers you're actually looking at and what you should be comparing for, because just because you're within normal ranges doesn't necessarily that means it's a range that you need to be within personally. So, and for me, it was more of a time frame of, okay, take it over these 4 test periods over a year and see how it fluctuates out, and then how I feel over that time frame. So it's having that multi data points, and my doctor's always been really good about it. I just say, hey, I want to get this done quarterly, and he writes a script and sends it off, and I'm set to go. So yeah, but with that being the case, Angie, you're helping these young women and helping them find their place in endurance sports. Is there something as a community that or as a whole that you find is working well currently for getting females into endurance sports and helping to promote that lifestyle? Or is it more just those personal touches of, this is, I know Jane, and Jane really likes to do this. Jane, here's Angie. Can you guys partner up and work together? Oh, I think we lost you there, Angie. There we got you. Yep.
Okay. I think that, there might be some stuff out there, but to me, I feel like I'm in my little, world all the time. Don't get out too much, but word of mouth, I think is big, in our community. We all know the top female athletes around, and just encouraging them to, help out and to help mentor other young females, whether it's, younger women or teenagers or below that. So I've never done a Girls on the Run thing. I've never done that. I apologize. I don't have time for whatever bookwork stuff that they have. I know it's something. I'm like, I don't have time for that.
Okay.
I'm just going to do my thing. But yeah, I think word of mouth and just, getting people in the right, what fits them. I think Gulf Winds has, stuff that they do, and just other things just to get girls involved. So, it's tough. It's tough out there because, you got to find somebody that has the time to do it too.
Shannon, what about you? Having started at a really young age in the endurance world, you've also lived in several different regions of the country, which I feel like that in itself can have a big impact. Where you live in the country can make or break the culture itself. Have you seen anything that really has been successful, or that really is helping to grow the sport, particularly for young females? Shannon, you might be.
Oops.
You're good. Yep.
Okay. First thing that came to my mind was Girls on the Run. I've heard of that, and I thought that was wonderful. But other than that, I remember at Ironman events, they have the couple days before the event, they've got the kiddie tries, and I love seeing that. I have so much fun just watching that. So it's really cool to have little mini kid dashes. For when the parents are off racing the next day, and they're involving the whole family and their kids, so their kids can follow in their footsteps. I have this one picture, old Polaroid in my mind, of my dad holding me. I'm like a toddler. I still have a diaper, but I'm doing a kid baby dash. And it was so adorable, because I'm like, oh my gosh, did I really, he really put me in those races that young? But look what happened. I fell in love with the sport of running, and it just grew. So, starting them young and introducing them to your lifestyle if you have kids, like I think that that's really impactful.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Kristin, what about you? Any thoughts or anything you've seen out there?
Yeah, so I first have to laugh because Shannon, you just said that I didn't grow up a runner, and my dad also did a race with me when I was really young, but he said all I did was stopped halfway through and cried. So he's always surprised that I run the way I do now because I absolutely hated it as a child. But he tried. To me, what would be difficult is if you've got a kid that's interested in it with parents who aren't involved in this sport, because I think for all of us who are involved, there's some great local resources. And Angie mentioned, Gulf Winds. Gulf Winds Track Club is awesome. And I know a lot of young girls in the community who run because of Gulf Winds. Outside that, not having kids myself and not being involved in anything with kids, I have no idea that I would definitely encourage kids towards that. But for those kids, they usually come from active families who have parents who are involved and will take them running with them or to the local race to introduce them to it. I think what would be harder is if you're a kid that's involved in sports or wants to be involved in sports with parents who aren't interested. I don't know the answer to that, but I just thought of it as we're all talking about bringing kids to stuff that we already do and organizations we're aware of. But locally, I think Tallahassee is a great place for kids in sports. We do have a lot of involvement here, and so we're kind of lucky.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just seeing my daughter running, even from a younger age, the track series they have, the summer track series that the track club runs is absolutely phenomenal. And it's funny to see kids out there like Shannon was, almost toddlers in a diaper out there running alongside, all the way up to teenage girls. I think it's a great introduction for not only endurance sports, but just health and active lifestyles in general. But Kristin, I think you hit the nail on the head that the parents that are out there with their kids are usually the parents who are already doing something like that. So I think at that point, it comes down to more of a role like Angie's in right now, where it's, almost a recruitment process for the teams. You're out there, you're active in your school, you're talking to the kids, boys, girls, whatever it may be at that point, and you're getting them to come out and at least give it a try. So, I think that can have, it can go either way. It can be a great experience or it can be a terrible experience. The kid enjoys it as much as the coach makes it fun. And personally, having worked with juniors over the years, mostly on the bike, it's hard to make it fun when they want to get competitive too. So, keeping it fun and keeping the excitement and not just hammering in the training like we can with adults, because the goal and the drive is so different and so not just one dimensional, I guess. So, okay, wonderful. What about women specific events? Have any of you participated in a women specific event or a women only event? Yeah, no. Okay, moving on then.
I do want to say though, I had lunch with my best friend that I run with today, and I mentioned this specific question to her because I've never done one, and it's not really my personality to do a women specific event. And she's very similar to me, hence we are this close, but she did a women's only mountain bike clinic, and spoke very highly of it because it is the supportiveness of women getting together. So, but I think it depends on people's personality for that. Some of us, and maybe that's why we're drawn into these sports. I mean, we are kind of in a male dominated world with endurance sports. I'm totally fine going out there with the guys, but they exist. And for some women, it might be more encouraging to them. So I think they're, at least the good thing to know is they are out there and people can seek them out if that's what they desire.
Yeah. I have a female athlete that does a women's specific cycling camp every single year. She's gone for the last 3 years. She absolutely loves it. It's more of a climbing camp. So she goes up to North Georgia and gets in the mountains and just goes and pedals her bike and has a good time and meets some new people in the sport. And sometimes it's a confidence booster because, hey, I gained more fitness than the person that was there last year that I got to train against. And then sometimes it's a reality check of, wow, there are some really fast women out there that I've got to put a little more work in if I want to be able to keep up with them. So I think that's cool. Here in Tallahassee, especially just looking at the cycling side of things, our women's community, well, our communities in general, I think with Facebook and social media anymore, you can find little rides and create your own rides throughout. But, even looking at some of the group rides, it's a select few that are out there and that are willing to get out there and kind of put themselves out there to ride with a group of guys. So, I think that's a nice buffer for that introduction to endurance sports for women to have those specific events. I know there's a local group called Black Girls Do Bike, and it's an awesome community. The gal that runs it loves cycling and has a passion for it. And I believe it's a national organization. So, but it's women specific, and they get out and ride their bikes and have a great time. So there are a lot of different options. I think you just have to look for them a little bit harder than you do the Grand Fondos or the marathons or anything else. So final question we have. Oh, actually, we had a comment here. Tabitha, one of our SOS athletes, just said that Zwift is actually doing women's specific events right now. So they cater more to women's specific side of things as well. If you want to hop in and actually do some women's specific rides, you can. So I didn't know those existed. So thank you very much, Tabitha, for pointing that out to me. So last question we have on the docket for you ladies tonight, and then unless there are any other questions that come through in the comments and the chats, we'll wrap up for the evening. But who are some of those kick-ass women out there today, whether athletes or not, that inspire you specifically? Shannon, I want to start with you on that one. You're fine.
Okay, sorry. Right off the top of my head is a local group of women that I train with. We're called the Bat Women, Badass Triathlon Women. Nice. And these women are my friends, and they are my competitors, and I look up to them. And it's really interesting for me to be in this position and explaining it this way, because I'm so competitive. I've always been competitive. I see another female, I'm like, I got to chase her down. I want to win. There's only one winner, I'm competing against them. But it's like we push each other, and it's not like that. We want to see each other succeed. And when one person is like these bike rides that I'm telling you, I get dropped on sometimes by them. They push me and they inspire me, and I'm not like defeated by it. Like I felt like maybe I would have in years past. And to call them my friends, I just, it's so important to have a close knit group of women that you look up to, and you guys push each other. It's a wonderful thing. And
it's a healthy competition.
Yeah,
a healthy competition, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's perfect. Angie, what about you?
Interesting. Back when I did train hard, also, I'd have the, any of the pros or anybody, people I look up to. But I was thinking now, who inspires me? It's really interesting how things change. Our athletic trainer, she holds me accountable. She's great. My assistant coach, Eva Mushton, she inspires me because I tell you, I'm about getting great people underneath me to take care of all these kids. Mm-hmm. And she inspires me because she's always there for the girls. And just, you talk about a role model thing like that, something like that. But what keeps me going and what I love doing, the kids inspire me. I'll be honest. I know it sounds sappy, but from the Keppel sisters to Peyton Thumb to Clifton Lewis, kids that I've trained for years, and seeing them grow. Mm-hmm. The girls that are going to be the future of Tallahassee running, that want to go off and run in college, that have those aspirations. Mm-hmm. The Tuesday night group that I've done for 4 years now, there's some boys in it too that are amazing, but there's a heck of a bunch of girls that I can't let them go. I still go out there. James, my husband's like, you've got to stop. I'm like, I love it. They inspire me. They keep me going. That's what I love doing. But yeah, I say those kids just truly inspire me and want me to try to keep going. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Kristin, what about you?
One, I think Angie's right on it right there. I think of the last 6.5 years I've lived in Tallahassee, some of these young ladies that I've watched grow up over the last few years while running, and it's just amazing and impressive to watch them. And you made that comment, I've said so many times, like, they are the future of running, and some of them, like, I'm so excited to see where they go, and to know at a young age that they're breaking some of these barriers is so fantastic. But I also have to add on to what Shannon was saying, like, I think every woman in the sport is so amazing, and I'm grateful to it because I feel like the girlfriends I have met through running are the people that I am the most close to. And I have closer friends through running than I had prior to running, because when you get out there with somebody and you're logging all these miles, it's amazing how much you open up to somebody. You push each other, you support each other. I mean, we've definitely seen each other through the highest and the lowest at this point. And yeah, some of the closest friends you'll ever meet. So I mean, for other women, I mean, I know people watching this are pretty much all athletes anyways, but for anybody who's not, like, such a great way to make better friends than you will ever meet any other way. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kristin, you just kind of led into this next question a little bit there. You know, you're out there a lot, you're training a lot, you're logging a lot of miles. And you know, I think of this for my daughter who goes out and runs on her own, and she's young, she's 10, so she'll go run loops around the neighborhood every now and then. What do you do, and what have you done personally to feel like you're setting yourself up from an environment standpoint to be safe on the road, whether it's, you know, when you're out there cycling, or whether it's just so you don't have to worry about anybody bothering you as a female going out solo? What have you done in your training to help yourself feel safe, or just to make yourself safe? Angie, what have you done there?
Say, you know, I'm always conscious of the time that I go is consistent. I know that, like, people get onto me for riding up Meridian up that way. Well, I'm at a certain time that I know there's not many cars, or if I'm running the trails, I know, good grief, I know every person out there pretty much, because I make sure to do it at the right time that I know, and that people that where I moved from too. I mean, every person that passed me, I'd see on the road or something that I'd know. But being smart, things like that.
Yep. Okay. Kristin, what about you?
So this is a big topic for me for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, the reason is not necessarily that I do all the things I should do. I hear a lot in different women's groups on Facebook, and then also just people that I hang out with, like the questions of, do you feel safe as a woman going out solo? What do you do? And I don't think women should be afraid to go out solo, but I think it's like Angie's saying, it's being smart about it, educating yourself about where you're going, letting somebody know where you're going. And I mean, I've gone out for, 9-hour runs before. To be gone all day, I mean, anything could happen at any point of time, and nobody's expecting you back for a long time, but at least this is where I'll be. This is what time I expect to be done. On my shorter runs, no, I don't carry a phone or anything with me, but on my longer runs, I do have a phone with me. So God forbid something did happen, I could reach out for help. But I think it's just trying to be smart and be aware of your surroundings. There's a lot of discussion among some of us local runners after an incident happened last summer to a young woman running here, somebody that many of us know very closely. And it brought up a topic of, what would you do in that situation, and being aware of your surroundings going to places. This is a 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, somebody was attacked. Like, it really can happen anytime. But I think as women, it's just making sure that we are trying to be as safe as we can, know where you're going, let people know. Most of my runs, yes, I am with somebody else, but I thoroughly enjoy being out on the trails by myself, and I'm not going to stop.
Right.
But I will try to be smart and at least let people know that I'm going, and bring my phone with me.
Yeah. Shannon, anything you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think just being prepared and knowing what you would do in those situations and running through it in your minds before. I've actually been on runs when it's super early in the morning, it's dark, and I've carried pepper spray just in case. I've actually been on a bike ride. I typically go like less traveled roads, back roads, so there's not a lot of cars. But actually, I had a dog come out and actually knock me off my bike, bite me, run away. And I did have a friend with me, so that was good. But if they hadn't, like, you just have to run through all the scenarios in your mind. Like, that was kind of a freak accident. But if there's other cars on the road, I just expect someone to cut me off, someone to get angry that I'm on the road with them. I'm very defensive, and I make sure I'm looking at them. They see me. I just expect it, and I think about all the scenarios that I could be in and what I would do, so I'm prepared.
Okay, perfect. And I think, Jessica and Tabitha both have commented on here. There are apps out there. So your Garmin has Garmin Beacon, and you can send a link to somebody else as well. Wahoo has it also, and it looks like I didn't know this, but Road ID also has it. And you can send it to either email or text. You have to have your phone on you, obviously, because it sends it through your phone, but it is another option that does allow you to keep in communication, whether you crash, or particularly if you crash, somebody is at least aware that you're out there and where you're at, and gives you that, peace of mind. But I think you're exactly right, Shannon. It's one of those things you almost have to treat everybody, whether they're in a car, on a motorcycle, or walking, like they're going to hit you, because you're in a very vulnerable spot. Whether it's on a bike or running, you're in a vulnerable spot. And I think that's, it sounds pessimistic, but I think it's a healthy approach to take to make sure that you're safe from a physical standpoint. So that's perfect. All right, final question here, and this has been the question of the last 12 months. So pretty much with the past year, event cancellations due to COVID, how have you guys kept your enthusiasm to train, and how have your goals been impacted? Shannon, let's go ahead and go back to you to start.
Yeah, honestly, the whole race cancellation thing has been a blessing in disguise for me, since I've been Ironmanning nonstop for 10 years straight, and it took a pandemic to stop me because I just couldn't stop signing up for Ironmans. But I needed that mental break, and I really appreciate it more. I felt very, very burnt out, like I was on a plateau and I just wasn't hitting my targets, and it was mental, like, stress and a burden. So to have this reset, I feel invigorated. The races I'm legit excited for them again, where I'm not like nervous that I'm not going to perform. Like, I needed the break. But Zwift actually has been having like races, and I've discovered, adopting that beginner's mindset again, like just going and trying to like race on Zwift. It's been fun. So that's been helpful.
Okay, perfect. Angie, what about you? How has it changed things for you in 2020 and 2021?
Anything, honestly. But of course, I'd tell myself, oh, now I'm on the even playing field with everybody too. But no, so I've actually just used it to really start training hard. So that was just been nice.
Yeah, and that's mostly on the bike, is that correct? Or where are you doing?
Yeah, on the bike. I was swimming, but then since I haven't had time to do triathlons, my favorite races are always on a meet day. So I was swimming, but then I said, heck with it. But because there's no point for me. But now, Grady, you need to make me start doing cycling races and stuff. I would love to.
Perfect. We need to get you a gravel bike. We'll have a blast.
That's the only bike I don't have. I know. Yeah.
We can solve that quick.
I'll tell James.
Well, maybe not quick. There's not much supply, but we'll figure it out. All right. Kristin, what about you?
So first, not quick at all. Mine just got here yesterday, and it's been since August. Bikes are coming very slowly. I hate to say it, but I was very negatively impacted by the pandemic hitting. My big race was scheduled right as everything hit, and about a little bit less than 2 weeks prior to my race, we got the email that it had been canceled. And so for me, it was like a big just kick in the gut, like, why? What have I put myself through the last few months? Now, what am I going to do? And then luckily it did get rescheduled, and we got to run it this past November. But that also put me through many, many more months of long distance training that was just wearing my body and my mind I think more than my body, it was wearing my mind out like crazy. And because nothing was happening, we didn't get the smaller races leading up to it that we used so much before that for race. So it was very hard for me, and we were, kept searching a lot for what are we going to do? And it was, kind of like Shannon said, trying to find other fun things to do. Like, let's try to create our own mini event here with the people that we're already running with. And, something, Brady and I have talked in the coaching aspect before, is finding other other goals other than just your race that you can shoot for now, whether it be climbing hills faster, running sprints or something that maybe you couldn't concentrate on while training for your race. Use this time to concentrate on that instead. And so it definitely, like, things were hard for me just being drug on longer and longer, which is why I now am going through this whole injury recovery phase as well. But we're working with athletes and trying to change my mindset of it. It's the trying to find the fun back in the sport and other things to train for rather than just an event, because that's what we all do get focused on. Hence, this has been so hard, is we train from event to event to event, and there's other things we can do and have some fun with it. So kind of hitting that reset button.
Perfect. Well, and I think it's a little bit of everything. Shannon mentioned earlier, she's working on strength to make herself a more rounded athlete, also to increase her overall strength and power in general. What I found with a lot of my athletes, this has given us time to figure out nutrition issues that they've struggled with for years, that they've just never taken the time to really put in. And then it's also just creating those micro goals. So yes, it's not an Ironman or a half Ironman or an ultra run or a gravel event that you get to go do, but we can set a wattage goal or a pace goal and find those little different things in there to help keep motivation and help keep you driving without having that big event that's really the key there. So, but that is all we have for tonight. I would really just love to thank you ladies for taking this hour out of your week to sit down and talk, share your thoughts, your opinions. I hope that this has been a little insightful for you and more than anything fun to get together and chat a little bit. For those that tuned in tonight, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, like us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get updates for the next shows that are coming up. We do have a couple more in the works right now. We don't have everything nailed down, but we will have more details out on what we're planning on doing here over the next 2 months, especially. But yeah, other than that, ladies, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you out there in racing soon.
Thank you, Brady. It was a pleasure meeting you two ladies.
You.